So are you the one that's been holding you back? You probably are. Let's get into it. So when we all reach adulthood and we start to experience some of the joys and some of the pain points in life, we figure out what those pain points are, right? They often become pretty obvious in the sense of patterns we engage in sense of types of relationships we choose for ourselves. The hardest realizations are the things that we may not have caused originally, but that we allowed to go on and that we contributed to in some way. And those are the most important realizations to make, because really when it comes to changing your life, it's not other people that have to change, it's you. And you're the only one that can come along and do it. Like, no magical person is coming along. Your parents usually aren't coming along to do it for you. And sometimes they're half the reason that you end up kind of living the patterns out that you're living out anyways. So, there's that. But yeah, you're the one as an adult who kind of has to come along and pick up the pieces and figure out what's next and how to build on what is good and kind of do away with what is not and build a healthier foundation for yourself. And where does it all start? Where do we start? Obviously, as many of you know, a lot of our past is what shapes us. And a lot of ways that can be good. A lot of people learn manners and a good work ethic from the people around them growing up. But sometimes they've experienced less than stellar treatment from the people around them. And, unfortunately, those things, although they are not your fault that happen as a kid, they stick with you. And they often affect how you show up for yourself, how you show up in relationships, how you function day to day. And what kind of mental health things might be going on too, all of those things, all those patterns you engage in, all of it, that's very much part of your childhood and the things that shape you. And again, you're not responsible for those things that happened way back when, but you're responsible as an adult for taking ownership of what has happened despite it not necessarily being your fault and making a life out of it, a life that brings you joy and isn't full of those pain points forever. So the first step is to really establish some healthy foundations for yourself, mind, body, soul. For a lot of people, therapy is the first great option, dipping your toe into that world. It's really important to understand what happened to us when we were young, how it's affected us, and how we can heal from that and navigate things as they come up. Having an understanding of the dynamics and the behaviors that have played a role in your life, super important to healing. And therapy is definitely the best place for that. Some people are very therapy averse and they end up going for coaches and things like that instead. And that's okay, but obviously you've got to know that coaching is not therapy. They're different goals. Therapists are very much focused on the mental health aspects and the healing aspects, a lot of times looking at your past, and coaches don't really have that focus. It's a little bit present forward. While a coach can help you identify maybe some patterns and some behaviors that haven't been helpful for you, they're not a therapist, and that's not really what they're there for. So it's important to take that into account. Now, if you are going to therapy, coaching can still actually help you build upon that because, like I said, therapy is a little more focused on the past. So it's actually good that someone who has done therapy comes to coaching too, because coaches can kind of build off that therapy and put that work that you did in therapy to good use in how you navigate things moving forward. And when you think about healing and getting to a better place, like a better homeostasis where you're in a place where you're making better decisions, you're not stressed out all the time, you don't have massive issues with anxiety. Anxiety may never just go away, but you learn how to deal with it better. All of those things are great. So it's important to consider all of the things like mind, body, spirit. It's a full encompassing change when you're looking to make it, and focusing on just one little area of your life won't do it alone. You've just got to know that. So I like to encourage people to consider the alternatives too. Things like meditation, Reiki, sound healing, hypnotherapy. There are so many things you can do. Breath work, somatic healing, all of these things. There are a ton of different types of professionals out there that help people with this. No thing in and of itself, I think, is like the answer. But I think finding things that kind of align with you, that you're drawn to, and trying new things here and there that you might go into with zero expectations and just see what happens, I would consider alternatives as part of your kind of getting to a homeostasis too. Because the more well-rounded you can be, the better equipped you are to make progress, and actually the more open you're going to be to making changes, to not just healing yourself and getting to a better place. We're actually like picking up and moving forward into the next thing, whatever that is for you. So considering all aspects of you that could use some work is really important when you kind of start taking these steps. Because along with all that comes that freedom of spirit and openness to kind of explore what you really want out of life and your job, your relationships, whatever. And here's an important point. Obviously, all of the things I've just described, they all tend to cost money. Don't let money be a total barrier. I understand that sometimes coaching is not covered by insurance. Totally get that. Therapy, hit or miss. It depends on people's work benefits and what their insurance situation is, obviously. YouTube is your friend in these scenarios. Obviously, you can't get one-on-one therapy with a therapist who's just talking about general concepts on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, but it's a way to start the process when it comes to things like therapists, coaches. There's a million free meditations online, whether it's on like YouTube or Spotify. They're out there. Same thing with hypnotherapy. You can, do a recording and put yourself under. And it's not the same as having somebody there to monitor and see what state of consciousness you're at to help adjust and keep you kind of focused and where you need to be. But it's been effective. I've done it to myself, and I know plenty of people that have done it to themselves. There's tons of things out there that have very little to no cost and can really kind of help you get started. So don't let cost be a barrier or an excuse for you to not pick up your fingers and type something in and just take a step in the right direction today. What's going to stop you? You. And what's the point of it all, really? Well, first of all, not living with the current discomfort that you might feel. It's important to note that life doesn't just magically get easier once you start working on yourself. It's that you're just better equipped to deal with life's both pleasant and unpleasant surprises. The most important thing is to find the courage to kind of take that initiative and make a step, one step at a time if it needs to be. They don't need to be big steps all at once. In fact, I think you can actually burn yourself out by trying to do all the self-care and 80 million meditations. I've met this guy recently that had been on one ayahuasca trip and 2 months ago, and he was about to go in his next one. And he's like, oh yeah, and then I've got another one planned for the fall. And I was like, no judgment, but that's a lot of information to take in in a very short amount of time in your life, just things to consider. There's such a thing as too much change all at once. And you've just got to feel that out for you. You've got to be motivated, but you've got to feel out what's right for you. When you start doing work on yourself, you also just become more in tune with you and more engaged with what it is that you're actually doing. And, you take a pause and you think about it before you do things, and you make better choices. It all matters is what I'm trying to say. And again, it's not just going to therapy. It's not just doing coach, not just meditating. It's not just exercising. All of these things together are things that are important, Go with what you gravitate to for sure, so that you don't, again, burn out or just kind of not make much progress because you're not very interested in kind of the stuff that you're engaging in. But it's all about building a different perspective about your life and everything that happens. The most important thing for you to remember is that your perspective at all times dictates the experience you have in life. So if you have trouble getting to a better perspective about things, you got to do the work. You got to work on it. And it doesn't mean that you never have a bad thought in your life once you've done work on yourself. That's ridiculous. But you learn how to change your perspective, and that's the difference that makes the difference. So make a list of maybe 3 to 5 things that you want to change in the next 6 months. They can be relatively little but consistent, or they can be on the bigger side, whatever you're comfortable with. Plan your next steps today. Keep using your brain, keep working at it, and I'll see you at the next level.